Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brothers and sisters. You are here with us on another episode of Contemporary Islamic Law. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about popular opinion, otherwise known as Qawl al-Mashhur, and we are privileged to have Sayyid Jawad Qazwini with us. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for joining us. So if you could be kind enough to explain to us what is the concept of popular opinion among the fuqaha.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. One of the very important discussions within the books of fiqh and usul, Islamic legal theory, is the discussion surrounding al-qawl al-mashhur, the popular opinion. And let me explain in the very beginning of the episode that we are not discussing al-ijma', a consensus.
So they're different, these two.
Yes, they are completely different topics, though very similar. Ijma' is a consensus. Now, is this consensus among scholars? Is it amongst the Muslims? Is it amongst all schools of thought? That's a discussion of its own. Inshallah, we will be discussing the notion of ijma' in another episode. Today, we are discussing al-qawl al-mashhur, the popular opinion among scholars. For example, the prohibition of shaving the beard for men is a popular opinion among scholars, but it is not ijma'. There isn't a complete consensus among scholars that says shaving the beard is haram, but it is the popular opinion. The age of 9 being the age where a woman is obligated to follow the Islamic legal system. The age 9 for women is a popular opinion, is qawl al-mashhur among scholars. What I'm trying to say is, when you see such opinions, a lot of people think this is a consensus among scholars. And there aren't other scholars that oppose this opinion. And sometimes there is a question mark. Why is it that, all scholars agree on this issue when it does not seem like it's, part of the Quran. It does not seem like it's, there are so many hadiths and traditions that talk about this. How come is it that there's a consensus among scholars when it comes to this opinion? And the issue is you've misunderstood it. There isn't a consensus. This is the popular opinion. And for the most part, people, such as our viewers, would only get to know 1 or 2 or 3 opinions of the classical scholars, let's say, and they feel that this is, all the opinions of the fuqaha and the mujtahids. So this is what we're discussing. Now, what does a popular opinion mean? What are the 3 categories of al-shohra? The popular opinion of scholars in the books of usul is referred to as al-shohra al-fatwaiyah. So this is one category of shohra, popularity. And what does that mean? That means that in certain occasions, the scholars from Sheikh al-Mufid's time and until today may have an opinion that is popular, but yet it does not really have a substantial evidence behind it. It either follows a hadith that is not as powerful in regards to its chain of narrators, or there isn't even a hadith that indicates the prohibition of something or makes something halal. It's shohra al-fatwaiyah that all of our scholars, most of our scholars, the majority of them, have just given this fatwa. And that is called al-shohra al-fatwaiyah. Now, why does this happen?
Based on what
it is, that's a prolonged discussion. The second type of shohra is al-shohra al-amaliyah, the popularity amongst what has been done by scholars, what has been applied, the applicable popularity. And that is something that scholars take very seriously. Maybe there isn't even a hadith that indicates what they're issuing an opinion on, but because that's what they have done. For example, in their discussions, Sayyid al-Khoi and other scholars and other mujtahids, when discussing, for example, seafood, they may reach a certain opinion, but when they give the fatwa, when it comes to action, when it comes to applying it, they have a different opinion. That opinion is due to ihtiyat, them being cautious. And that's something that we will discuss in the next episode.
Inshallah.
And the last is al-shohra al-riwa'iyah, which is the popularity of tradition, a narration. When does a narration become popular? It is when several narrators, it's not that one narrator has narrated, or two or three different people have narrated this hadith, but it appears in 10,000 books. No. It's when 6, 7, 10, less than 20, let's say, narrators, students of Imam al-Baqir, students of Imam al-Sadiq, students of Imam al-Rada, narrate one hadith. That hadith becomes popular. Now, when it becomes popular, how does it help a faqih? How does it relate to us? Shohra al-fatwa'iyah, the popularity of a fatwa, the popularity of an application of an opinion, al-amaliyah, al-shohra al-amaliyah, and al-shohra al-fatwa'iyah, help scholars determine their opinion as well. For example, when a alim comes and sees that the popular opinion amongst scholars is that the age of puberty for girls is 9, yet he sees that there isn't sufficient evidence for it. But it is very difficult to go against the popular opinion. It's difficult for people to become that black sheep, and that is obviously out of taqwa, that, what if I'm going to take a risk and be responsible for it in the Day of Judgment? When it comes to the hadith, al-shohra al-riwa'iyah, let's say there are some people in the chain that are unknown, and that automatically makes the hadith weak. But because there is a shohra, popularity, several narrators narrated this hadith, then it helps the hadith get from the level of being a weak hadith, an unreliable hadith, and becoming a reliable hadith. So it gives it strength. And this topic has been discussed by, obviously, Shi'i scholars in the seminary, in many books, and almost all the books of Islamic legal theory. But it is also discussed by Debin stewards. Islamic Legal Orthodoxy, 12-verse Shia Response to a Sunni Legal System. This book is obviously written by a non-Muslim professor. And what he says, and I'll say this and conclude, is that he says this whole opinion of al-shohra is not something that belongs to the Shi'i school of thought, but it is an influence of the Sunni school of thought on the Shi'i ideology and Shi'i scholarship. And he writes the full history behind that. That is why I'll say this in conclusion. Not all of our scholars, maybe the majority or the popular opinion among scholars, is that they don't find a shohra, popularity, to be seen as an evidence when wanting to give fatwa. They go against the popular opinion, and there's no problem in that. Yeah. People were cautious, scholars were cautious then, but after Sayyid al-Khoi specifically, when he completely went against the whole notion of al-shohra, now scholars are becoming more bold in giving fatwas that go against the popular opinion.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for being with us. This has been Contemporary Islamic Law. Make sure to share your questions with us, and inshallah we'll discuss them on future episodes of the show. Until then, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.